pursuit. What's happening? In putting this whole inside-out concept, back in 2010, this was the map that we used to plot out our genomic makeup on our health makeup. And in 2010, one of the biggest red lights that I put forward to the government was that we are sitting on a ticking time bomb. Way back in 1998, when I was part of Prime Minister's Task Force on Food and Agri, we came back saying that our country is sitting on a food crisis and we have a food safety issue. In 2011, because of this map, we first put the whole country upside down and said that we are going to face an imminent health crisis in our country. That led us to work with various governments, ministries, as well as the Planning Commission. Various initiatives were started. And on the last side, what you see was the result of our analysis. We as a country, second largest, most populated country, has a disease burden because of our genomic makeup and our health risks are, which is more than proportionate to what the world's disease burden is. And then the supply to manage that is even worse. A situation like this would mean either we go outside and import all the healthcare resources to manage our crisis, or we look at working internally. So today I'm going to talk on two areas of how we could do and work and bring out solutions to address this crisis, imminent crisis. One in the healthcare side, and second on the life sciences side. Well, for any successful venture or any enterprise, and I understand you just putting together an incubator also in your campus, you need certain support system. First is the manpower. Second, you need land, building, all the material to kind of house the venture. Then you need an entrepreneur who could be the guiding force to it. And then in the healthcare side, you need your medicines, your medtech, and all the jugaad and the innovation. How do we build that pipeline? And my focus of my talk today is how do you bring that money in to actually seed that out? Today we were just talking, Ravi is here, about how do we seed some of the ventures? How do we create that innovation pipeline? So way back in 2011, when I was chairing ABLE, which is the industry body for life sciences in India, as chair of finance and investment, one of the critical issues that we felt was, there are a lot of areas where, large multinationals sitting out of India, they're not interested. Malaria, tuberculosis, there are so many other things. In which case, we need to develop our own biopharm industry and our own solutions. And campuses like these are the testbed for really coming out with ideas. So while I was chairing the session, we had members from the Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology as well. And one of the things that he said was, well, you have an incubator here. The guys will use the college and the support ecosystem. But what after that? Who's going to fund that? Or how do you work this forward? And if you go to, external agencies, they don't understand this industry. If you say biotechnology, they say, oh, you're doing some computer work. Or you say pharma, you're doing some lab work. There's just no concept or understanding of, what exactly this industry was. What's happening? Roll back. Yeah. So within 8-9 months, I started working with the principal secretary at the Department of Biotechnology. That time it was Dr. Bhatt. And we actually seeded a 500 crore biotech ignition grant policy for this country for the first time to allow ideas to germinate. This whole template was then taken up by the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. And the secretary at that point in time was Dr. Lal, and he took it forward. And what you have today as the 10,000 crore India Startup Fund germinated out of these ideas and this whole concept. So, to conclude, and next slide, you can go through a lot of this stuff in terms of how you can do your jugaad. There are various ways you could probably get things moving if your intent is right. And the idea here is, how do you do it inside out, right? Today we have a brilliant ecosystem which is sustainable and which is working within, our ecosystem. And I'm glad to say that we may potentially be having 4 or 5 solutions for our own country coming out of these sort of initiatives, which could be going out in the world as India's initiative. And so these are things which I would like to just outline in terms of what can be done, how we cannot be restricted just because we don't have the money or we don't have the other capability. Next slide. Now let's shift gears to healthcare. Way back in 2013, I exited out of a venture which was India's first innovative venture in daycare surgery. A patient would come in the morning, he would get his procedure done, and go back home in the evening. He did not have to stay in the hospital. That venture obviously scaled up and go round after round, raise some capital, and the venture had to raise more capital. And that set my thoughts in terms of, how do we as an entrepreneur, really if we want and have a successful idea, really try to scale, and how do we get money? And at that point in time, there were only 3 options available to me. One was, raise money through private equity. And that private equity had its own strings attached. I would probably have to go up and raise more money round after round, diluting myself. Ultimately, I would probably end up even a child of a lesser god in that venture. Or perhaps go to the bank saying, here, take my home, take all my belongings, lend me, I'm taking the risk, I'm putting the money. Or go to any other development finance institution saying, okay, here's what I'm going to give you in future in terms of the asset that I'm going to build up, my land, building, medical equipment and whatnot. And I'm going to take the risk, I'm going to serve the people and give me capital. Highly unsustainable. And that led me to think when I exited out of that, my venture, there has to be some way, an industry's requirement of how to probably break this whole cycle. And mind you, at that point in time, when I had superimposed this whole health risk map of India, by 2025, India needed $320 billion of capital just to meet India's healthcare needs at a global average parity. We are so down. $320 billion is what? Apple's turnover of a year? Half the turnover of a year. Or Google's turnover for a year. And our government just don't have money to sustain this sort of a growth momentum and create it. So there has to be a way out, which is what led me to think, how do we go and break this shackle? Next one. Well, at that point in time, we kind of were looking, the real sexy stuff was, Flipkart, all these, new age internet stuff. And if we were to start glamorizing this industry for an investor, we really needed to hardcode what's in it. We just compared, HCG, Dr. Lal, Narayana were the three companies that went IPO, right? And then you have this whole laundry list of unicorns out of India, our laundry list. If you see the amount of capital, because one of the apprehensions in the financing industry, whether it's a private equity or banks or any development finance institution in this country, was, boy, healthcare is asset heavy or even asset light, takes a lot of capital. So one of the things we said, nobody, it does not. And what you see in the ratios over there is even your Flipkarts of the world, which has guzzled $1 billion and still kind of funds consumers, is guzzling more capital, being asset light than an healthcare industry. And I remember now, one of our political leaders says, in the long term we'll be all dead. So where is it that if you're not healthy, wealthy, where will all these guys be to consume whatever they're throwing in the market on your mobile phones and all? So that's another parameter to change the whole thought process in our investing industry. Next slide. This was a brilliant slide that was created by folks at FICCI, which is the industry body. And if you see cancer, oncology, and cardiology, just as an example, we just wanted to, what led us to believe what we could do was that it's not on the good, very low. But we as a country produce as many cancer patients and cardiology patients as the whole population of US in a year. But yet, it's not attractive enough for us to invest. The more attractive enough segments are, mother and child, maternity. And how do you break this shackle? Because investors are always going to be attracted to where money is. They always follow the money. How do you break that shackle? Next slide. So we just looked at two asset-light models. What you see in blue line is HCG, which is India's and perhaps Asia's largest oncology chain of hospitals in India. And the other one was Narayana, which is the red. So from IPO, Narayana just remained flat, whereas HCG has been growing. And that led us to believe there's something beyond this. that even the stock market rewards a company and punishes another company. And what is it that is leading it for investors to put more money in even a least attractive space like oncology? So we kind of thought about it and we worked on it. Next slide. And at that point in time, what we realized was stock market was punishing companies that were asset heavy as compared to companies which were asset light. And then we kind of went to focus, did some fundamental research on the US market. This is where we saw, I'm sorry, there's color which is just not coming here. Color over here, which is your US stock market, US S&P, which is somewhere below. And what you see here is your healthcare REIT, which is performed 10 times more than even the largest stock market. And that led us to put in India's first healthcare REIT fund of $500 million called El Toro Healthcare Real Estate Fund. We got a SEBI approval in November of last year. And 3 state governments have actually put in money with us. Although I worked with the Planning Commission way back in 2010 when Ramadas was the health minister, this whole public-private partnership has not really taken on. And what we have promised to some of the state government is, we are going to give you commercial returns with taxpayers' money. At the same time, we are going to create healthcare infrastructure within your states, in the private sector, with full responsibility to delivering and improving healthcare quality. It's not just that. Beyond that, next slide. When you started comparing what was on the table 5 years back to what we are offering, the options have opened up for the industry. We hope to create a healthcare infrastructure which is in the league in terms of the number of beds, like Apollo and the Fortis of the world. At the same time, leaving the management of healthcare to the experts. So where we are coming in is, we are kind of monetizing the land and building, which is what HCG did in going asset light as compared to other players, and ensuring that the stock market and the investors also reward them. At the same time, we reward our investors and our sponsors in helping creating the infrastructure that is required in this country. Next slide. So while we put in that money, what it really does is pushes some of these vital segments which were least attractive to mercenary investors, actually grow and become more attractive in the process, which is very vital for maintaining the health risk of this country. Next slide. Well, this could be another larger TED Talks issue, which I can talk some other time, but over and above what we are doing in terms of creating healthcare capacity and quality in this country, there are other 9 vectors of social impact that we are creating through our fund. Predominantly employment. So 1 bed that we invest creates employment generation for 30 people. Reducing the cost of capital so that we can actually do more with less. And then the whole cycle of making healthcare cheaper, better, faster. I'll put my talk over here, and I do hope these sort of ideas do germinate out of India, so that we can break some of these shackles and constraints that we have, not only in terms of raising capital and financing capital, but even in terms of creating social impact. I may perhaps come back to you and talk a lot in terms of how social impact can also be created. That's part of another TED talk. Thank you very much for a patient hearing.